System buster.
System buster.
System buster.
Sir, we may have a problem. He's awake.
Only one rule in the Earth Club. If it's your first time, you gotta fight. Only one rule in the Earth Club. If it's your first time, you gotta fight. Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate. Start CDNA. Start
Orders received, Commander. Earth will not fall.
Activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate. Activate the code inside. Activate, let the stars see right.
All right, well, let's activate that Starseed DNA with my brother, the one and only Tyler Kiwala. Brother, what's popping?
What's up? That looked better than most Marvel movies.
So, you know, what you guys don't know is me and my brother, I've been talking to him all morning. I'm working on a new trailer / movie for you guys about the secrets of the moon. And I don't know what's going on. I'm doing my best to get it off my computer. It's nuts. So I can't wait to show you guys that. I might just load that as a standalone later tonight when we're dancing at Raw's girl's birthday party. Or if we are, I want you guys to know that there's a lot of knowledge out there in the universe. And actually in all the whistleblowers that have done and, even sacrificed their lives to get you guys information to know what's really going on. So I think my new is going to be showing you guys. It's one thing to watch an interview. It's another thing to watch a movie based upon an interview of truth. And I'm going to do that for every single generation that can't sit still and can't pay attention. I'm going to make you a Marvel movie that has real data dumps in it. And I think that's what I think is the coolest thing to do. And now with this new technology, we actually have the ability to do that. You know what I mean? It's just fresh. I'm pushing this thing's envelope right now. What it can do, I'm already pushing it to what it's capable of doing. So I just wanted to say that for all you guys out there. I think I found my new jiu-jitsu, my new kung fu. My brother Tyler, Journey to Truth podcast. You know him, you love him. Listen, we were talking and I watched the video, Earth's is a waiting room. That was one of the clips, right? Do you want to go into that? And I think let's just go back and forth and let's just unload, some of the content that we possess and then how we can help our brothers and sisters process, some of this technology that is some personal experiences with it.
Yeah, definitely. You were just cutting out a second ago, but you're back. Okay. So this was a memory, a recall that I had, that waiting room. It's something that happened a couple of years ago, actually. And I just released my book, which is right here, Bleed Through Tales from Another Timeline. And I call it Tales from Another Timeline because I have a lot of recall memories from other realities, programs that I believe I'm potentially involved in, but they don't fit in this timeline. So it forced me to explore, okay, well, if it's not happening in this reality, where are these memories coming from? How does that work? It led me to, the many worlds theory in quantum mechanics. And, we all live, there's like infinite versions of ourselves living in infinite realities, lifetimes simultaneously, superposition, single position, all that stuff. It just led me down that rabbit hole, but I had to make sense of it. And for some reason or another, these memories would come through, and they would come through sometimes in the dream state, sometimes even during the waking hour. And it's interesting how that happens, but there's a difference. We have to, I guess, determine the difference between a dream and a memory. And that's what I had to do first. So a dream always fades away, and like I'll be talking to you, and then you'll morph into Ra, and then we'll be on the beach, and then a fire truck will come, and then we're fighting a fire in New York. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It doesn't make any sense. But the recalls, it's a memory. Nothing changes. There's constants throughout it. And actually, the more you sit with it, the more clear it becomes. So that's how you can determine the difference, right? And nobody's changing or morphing, and you're not suddenly one place or the other. It's like, okay, this was real. Why do I remember it so vividly? So
right.
just to kind of preface what I'm about to get into and where it comes from. And if you have any questions before I dive into the memory.
No, hey, I'm excited. Let's go.
Yeah. So my book just was released, and this memory came to me right after I released it. And I was like, of course, because this would have made an amazing chapter and tied right in with my book. But it'll be in part 2, which is coming. I've been kind of putting pieces together for it. But I found myself, I had this incredibly vivid memory. I'm standing in this facility. I didn't know where I was at first. Extremely tall ceilings, it was like metal walls, dark. It wasn't white. And I was standing in a line of people, and there was a woman at the end of the line who had this wand, and she was like assessing everyone. Like she would like scan people with this wand, kind of like a metal detector scanner, just like that. And
it scans your energy signature.
Exactly. And I didn't know anything about what was happening in the moment. I just knew we were in line, and it was very quick. And, the person would be in and out, in and out, in and out. It came to my turn. And this woman was like a humanoid ET. She looked human, but her just was different, taller, wiser, had an energy about her. You felt little compared to her, just energetically. And it was my turn. She had this wand, and she scanned me quickly, and she said, "You're wise beyond your years." And I was like, "I am," and she said, "Yeah, you'll be placed in tier 3." And I had no idea what that meant. And then she literally said, "Follow them." And I go, I'm escorted to this elevator. We go up the elevator out onto this floor where it's a holodeck simulation, like the Star Trek. It's a holodeck, but it's a virtual reality training simulator. And there's like a course that we have to run. And I start the course, and it's like an obstacle course, for lack of a better term, but it's as real as I'm talking to you now, but it's a simulation, right? And you have an allotted amount of time to get to the next stage. And if you get there before that allotted amount of time, you earn extra time. And a voice will come over the intercom and say, "You've earned extra time." And, and then you get through the course. And by the time you get to the end, you're basically graded on it. And then from there, we were separated into even smaller groups. And this is where we were in a room with a bunch of tables, a circular room with a bunch of tables. And the table in the middle was a hologram of Earth. And it literally said the waiting room. And it had individuals highlighted all over the globe with their stats above them. And it was showing prominently all of the highest IQ people on the planet. But then it would show everything to their level of consciousness, awareness, just anything that it knew you better than we know ourselves, right?
Right.
And they were monitoring, I think, anyone who had come online or had gone through an awakening, and they can tell like what level you're at even. And
so you actually got to see the ranking.
Yeah. You got to see the ranking, but I just saw the ranking. I didn't see the ranking of any specific individuals that I knew, but it was very clear that's what this was. And it became apparent to me what was happening was, well, we weren't on Earth, and that became apparent later, and I'll explain why. But I had a conversation with somebody, and it was just like this understanding. What was happening was people were walking around on Earth as if it was a waiting room for this specific program, right?
Right.
And they were monitoring people, and then when they would fall asleep, they were essentially abducted, or their consciousness was abducted during the REM state of their sleep, and they were pulled from Earth and placed in another avatar to then pursue a mission or complete a task, whatever it was they needed you for. And then at the end of that time, your consciousness would be placed back in your body on Earth. Your memory will be wiped, and you would wake up and thinking you just had a crazy dream, and or you wouldn't remember it at all. And this was happening all over the place. Maybe not to everyone. I don't know the percentage of people this was happening to, but where we were stationed, this is where it was all being orchestrated from. And so they would monitor people, and then based on whatever psychic abilities had come online for them, they would be used for this mission here or this operation here. So it was really interesting to see how that worked. But I started becoming vocal on this station about how wrong it was that people were being used without their consent, and they had no memory of it. And I just felt like really bad because there was also a cloning process involved, and it just like their identity, their soul blueprint was being used for everything that they didn't know of, that they didn't know about, so we're just going through the motions down here, but
right.
There's so much more to us that we have this amnesia, we just don't remember. And then there was another interesting aspect of this memory. We were all in that room, all the tables surrounding that, where we were broken up into groups, and we were analyzing things that starseeds had invented or created, developed on Earth. So like your organite pyramids, Arcturus Raz, little jewelry and stuff.
Yep.
These essential oils, it doesn't matter, stuff exactly like that. We were testing it to see if it had any measurable effects. So they were monitoring who was creating what. They would somehow obtain it, and then we were tasked with testing it. The table I was at was an essential oil. It was created by somebody. I know who it was from. I won't say their name here, just for their privacy, but it was an essential oil, and we were just testing the potency of it. Is this a snake oil? Does it have measurable effects? And I even remember spilling the essential oil in the tablecloth, and they made me change the tablecloth before we switched stations. You would go to different stations and do this, and whatever they did with those results, I don't know. Then there was another room called the viewing gallery, which looked like theater seating in a window that overlooked Earth. So that made me question whether or not we were on the moon or just in some sort of space station orbiting Earth.
Right.
In low Earth orbit. I mean, it was pretty low, but it could have been the moon as well. So, and then while I was in this viewing gallery, it was like where people would gather and kill time, essentially. And there was a lot of people I know in my real life here in this facility, like a lot of them, especially in this community. And I overheard a conversation between two people that I know in my real life. But one guy was explaining to the other guy the cloning process and how they're abducted and all this stuff. And I'm breaking it down to the other guy who was in disbelief that that's actually what they were using the humans for. It was almost like not everybody up there understood what the humans were being used for. It's kind of like the movie The Island. It's a cloning movie. Like they don't they don't know that they're clones living underground in this facility. Like they're given this whole other reality. That's kind of what it seemed like. So I mean, there's a little more to it than that, but that's specifically what you were what you reached out to me about to do this interview. So I guess we can
Yeah,
just
no,
start there.
let's take it right from there. That's absolutely fantastic visuals and everything. The ranking system is real. I've seen individuals, and then I've actually also seen power couples on Earth. I've seen and they showed me basically a big screen. It shows me like overlooking Earth. It shows all the major cities on the planet. It shows each territory how many individuals are awake. Then it shows me their energy signature, what the royal family or what their DNA heritage is, star celestial heritage is. Then it shows me age, all the normal things. But then it also says there's divine counterparts. Um, some people can raise through the ranks faster when they have a divine counterpart because you guys balance each other. So it's kind of like dual processing reality. So if you were laying in your bed alone, just imagine there's only so much information you can process with one brain or one suit. When you can dual process with someone else in the bed, now you've got, your brain has two, it's supposed to have 4 to 8, but the human brain is like left and right hemisphere, right? Well, imagine dual processing or quad processing is having you and your partner in the bed both processing the same data. So one partner laying in bed with you can process visuals, ratios, geometries, and content. The other one can do code, sounds, visuals. So they can combine both of those energy signatures to get a very strong signal. What you'll find in most divine counterparts on this planet is I call one's the high flyer, okay, and then one's the ground. You need both to create a strong structure. You can't have 2 high flyers because there's no ground. So you'll normally in a very powerful power couple, male, male, female, female, male, female, whatever it is for you guys out there, in these crazy times. But what I'm trying to say is that one person's the ground, one's the high flyer. High flyer means you're going to go and reach for the upper dimensional content and bring it down. The monoatomic gold is very important for that because for your high res dream time, your brain only creates so much monoatomic gold every single night inside your brain. I forget which cavity it is or unit it is inside of your brain, but it does create monoatomic gold. So what happens is the higher in frequency or density you travel, the memories, if you can, maximize that reservoir inside of your brain, you'll be able to retain more of the higher frequency memories as you come back down into the body. Does that make sense? Every human being is creating it every single night, but you only get so much. So that definitely helps. The ranking system is real. And it's not a ranking system as in good or bad or anything like that. It's basically showing which agents of light, let's just call it, or which beings that are in the game can actually facilitate certain things that need to be done. Similar to imagine if firefighters were on a spacecraft and when fires broke out on the surface, which firefighters would be selected to go put that fire out? And is there enough firefighters in that territory to put that fire out? You know what I mean? It's something very unified when we all work together and do that. Yes, those rooms are go ahead. Those rooms are real.
Yeah, that's super interesting, the firefighter analogy. I noticed as well, and because I travel a lot, and something I've noticed I couldn't help but to notice was that I have the most potent recall when I'm sleeping near a body of water.
Yep.
And that could be specifically to me. I don't know how that comes into play, but in particular, if I'm sleeping near a lake, my family has a condo near a lake in Missouri, or even if I'm in Hawaii or down in Florida, if I'm just near a big body of water, I don't know what it does to my dream recall, but it's amplified. So that's something to look into for anybody who's interested. But another interesting aspect and how I know like these are memories and not dreams, it's one of the weird things was whenever I got done with running that course in that holodeck simulation, I was surprised to see that there was actually there was media there. And they almost like they had gained access to the facility to do an investigation. And they wanted to interview me and other people that were on the station. And it reminds me of the movie Future World from 1979. If you ever seen that movie, the news the news anchors get invited to this facility like called Future World, and they conduct an investigation and realize that it's actually a cloning facility, and they're cloning all the world leaders, politicians, and news anchors and replacing them. And then they're inviting them, hey, come check out our new amusement park. Then they're literally in the movie, they're abducted out of their sleep, they're cloned, and then sent, the clones are sent back out into the public, and then they eliminate the originals. And that's in that movie, but that's very similar to this memory in a sense that the media was there, invited to do an investigation. And I just thought that was an interesting aspect. And I don't know how that would look, but I've also heard from like whistleblowers and stuff that there have been film teams that have been invited to certain bases to document it. And eventually when we get disclosure, a certain documentary might be released based on the inside of the moon or whatever it would look like. And I think that is happening in some capacity. And there's probably a lot of films ready to go if we ever get the green light, you know?
Right. No, I agree with that. I mean, we're just scratching the surface, you know. One of the programs I think many of us that were born in could have been late 70s or 70s, 80s, and 90s was going to be Project Pegasus. That was the one that I have missing time, 6th grade. I have missing time, summer of 6th grade, summer of 7th grade. A lot of the memories I have are being in Florida. And I was like in 6th grade, I had one of my homies was named Glenn Hunkins. Sweet, sweet Glenn. Haven't seen this guy in probably 25 years, right? But I would always tell this guy, even going through high school, hey, remember that time we went to summer camp, you know, in Florida, and we went to like it looked like I went to, I don't know where they launch rockets from, like Cape Canaveral. You know, imagine being in 6th grade field trip, summer trip. And I had very vivid memories of getting into a cockpit. The lady there was very nice. She was showing me all the controls, this is how you ignite the ignition, start the ignition. This is what this does. And I literally have memories of someone explaining to me in 6th grade how to fly a rocket. So I don't know how to explain this. Anyways, all the way until high school, I was like, hey, remember that time we went to summer camp over like Cape Canaveral in Florida? He's like, bro, we never went to Florida to space camp. There's no space camp, you know, thing that our middle school did. And I was like, what are you talking about? We all went to space camp. He's like, nah, bro.
Very interesting.
That's one. The second one is at Meadows Elementary School. I don't know if you guys know this in Manhattan Beach, California, but TRW and Northrop are in Manhattan Beach, California. And all of the kids I went to school with, for example, Dee Dee Davis, love her, her dad invented the radar for the B-21 bomber. So all of these kids that were my friends growing up, all their parents worked at Lockheed, TRW, and Northrop in Manhattan Beach. So these are the kids of some of the smartest people on the planet. Okay. Yeah. We're just like a bunch of kids, right? But it was very interesting to me, the environment. That GATE program was 100% real in Manhattan Beach. I remember getting the hearing test. I remember the after school stuff. I even remember I was in some after school program in 6th grade where I was actually alone. I don't know what the deal was, but apparently it was okay to, I don't know if my parents worked late or what it was, but I remember being in an after school program. It was like just me. And my dad was cool, but he like dropped off all these boxes from his work. He worked at Motion Industries. And I was like making tunnels out of these boxes all day for like 2.5 hours after school every day. And I was thinking to myself, missing time. I'm like, I've never heard of a school program where you can stay on campus 2.5 hours by yourself in a room where you're just constantly creating and doing things that's paid for by the state, especially when I was the only one in the room. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. All of a sudden you start breaking down, you know, how you guys were raised. And I was just like, this is very interesting. I think the mind wiping technology they have was pretty thorough, but this is what they can't wipe: the emotions. I remember waking up in the morning as freshman in high school. I remember getting in the shower, taking a hot shower, sitting down on the tub because I could not wake, and just letting the hot water literally wake me up for half an hour until the water heater was drained. And it was the weirdest thing. I did it every single morning. Thinking about it, it's almost like coming back from a whole night mission. And I literally had to sit there in this water to like then reassess my conscience back into the suit. I needed something physical to actually remind me that I was in the physical. So I don't know if you guys have any references to that, but you know, some of you guys are going to find out just how rare and special you are, and that we never really belonged here. This
Yeah.
whole story of, oh, we're this and we're that, and you're Bobby and you're Kelly. And I'm like, I don't resonate at all with this population. I always felt inside of myself that I'm here for my brothers and sisters and we're on a mission.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like once you learn the truth, there's nothing else. Or once you have a greater awareness, because I think we're always on a pursuit of the truth, but you know what I mean? And, you know, it's interesting. We'll get into Project Pegasus here in a minute because it's literally titled that. But going back to childhood, all these things that happened to me, to me, they were completely insignificant until I went through my awakening and I reflected back. In 5th grade, in particular, a number of things happened. The Air Force came into our classroom, and 2 generals, whoever they were, they came in and wanted all the kids to invent and draw their own version of a spacecraft. And they said that children have the brightest, sometimes kids have the best ideas. So they wanted us to all like invent our own spaceship. And I remember all the kids, we started drawing, and primarily I was looking around and everybody was drawing a rocket because it's like the programming, right? They were just drawing some version of a rocket. And I drew a triangle, like a TR-3B type of craft.
Yeah.
But I didn't know why. And I actually looked around and I thought maybe I was like getting it wrong. I felt like, so I was almost going to erase it and like draw a rocket just so I wasn't the only one that stood out. Anyway.
Don't blow your cover, bro. Don't
but it was too late. They started collecting the papers and stuff, and that was it. And they thanked us. But it was like one of those core memories, because when men in uniform walk into an elementary classroom, it's like, whoa, who are these guys?
Deal. Yeah.
And then that same year, my teacher started an after-school computer club, and I was really interested in it, but I didn't, because this was when the internet was like finally just starting. I was in 5th grade, and it was teaching you how to use the internet and how to program and all this like web design. It was like a very, very early stages of that. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I didn't sign up. And then he came up to me personally. He's like, listen, I created this entire program with you in mind, and I really, really think that you would get a lot out of this. And he gave me this whole pep talk, and then I signed up. I went and asked my mom. So then I joined this after school program, and I don't remember much from it. And then, so fast forward, one other weird thing that came up while you were talking, it was during high school. I went to the mall with my friend. We were going to get some Chinese food in the food court on Saturday, whatever. And we were walking through the mall. This was before we even had cell phones, by the way. Like this was pre-cell phone era. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 18. That's ridiculous thinking about compared to these kids now at like 7 years old getting a phone. But we were walking through the mall, and this guy comes up to my friend and I and says, how would you guys feel about making a quick $5? All you got to do is watch a movie trailer and rate it. And we're like, okay. And so he said, all right, follow me. And he takes us into this back room in the mall, and down this hallway, we go and we sit in this like small room with this TV. And that's all I remember. I don't apparently we sat there and watched the movie trailer and gave us popcorn and gave us money. And then we left. I remember the whole thing, except for what you watched, except for doing it. Right.
Yeah.
I remember the before and after, and like we each had $5 afterwards. And then that was it. So I always go reflect on that memory. I'm like, that was odd, and I think that it's all part of tracking and monitoring, and who knows what that could look like, if it's nefarious or benevolent, but maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Well, I think once you break down the beings or the competition we're dealing with, money is nothing to them. It's like Babylonian money magic. So to think about having all that extra spare time to just stare at the population and select the rare breeds of beings and coming into this game and the rare energies incarnating here, you'd actually spend all of your time searching through the population, all of your time monitoring the kids, and you would care very little for any of the fiscal or financial things the adults do because it's completely irrelevant to the truth of what this place is. So what I'm seeing is that where's your focus? It'd be 100% on the new generation, 100% on some of these kids, their gifts, and what they could do. Now, another thing too is, what if they find the next starfighter down here? They found like, oh my God, I can't believe the so-and-so incarnated. And, these 20 and back programs, right, that a lot of our friends we know have been a part of or have talked about, how do you get the next starfighter? I don't know. They're 6 years old, pull them out of their bed, put them back, and then have them do 2 tours, put them back in their bed 15 minutes after you took them. So what is this really? Back into Earth is a waiting room. I think this has to do, again, if you guys don't know what Project Pegasus is, this is why this is all completely relevant to Project Pegasus. Project Pegasus is about time travel. Mm-hmm. Project Pegasus is about certain beings jumping back and forth through time, certain programs being operational once that technology was released. And what I'm trying to say is that we've all been affected by these programs, but we don't know what they are, nor do we know that they exist. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you know about Project Pegasus and that one gentleman? Because he does a great job, disclosing it. He was like, 15 years old. His dad was fully in, I don't know if it was Skunk Works or something, but he grew up with time travel being a reality. Go ahead.
Yeah, Andrew Bashago. We interviewed him once on our channel a couple of years ago. You can find it in our library if you just go to Journey to Truth podcast on YouTube. It was an excellent interview, and Andrew Bashago has amazing recall. Y-Files even did a whole episode on him, but Y-Files debunks everything at the end, and I think that's strategically done. And what's funny is I've actually studied Andrew Bashago's testimony very intricately, and when Y-Files covered it, they got so many details wrong. And so many, I'm like, that's not what happened. That's not what they got so much of it wrong. And then at the end, they're like, for reasons A, B, and C, we think Andrew's not credible. And I'm like, well, you got the whole story wrong. So I don't know who's doing the research for AJ, but interesting what they choose to cover and what they choose to debunk. And anyway, he talks about the advent of time travel in the 60s and 70s, and they were bringing children in to test 8 different modalities of time travel. And a lot of them were basically extensions of Nikola Tesla's work. And like the Tesla teleporter and even Project Montauk and a number of different modalities. And he explains each modality in detail. He talks about age regression, like we hear about when you come back from the program, they have to age regress you. But he talks about age progression, where he was specifically brought into a facility somewhere, maybe Texas, I don't remember. It was an old abandoned high school. But they age progressed him until age 40, but he was 10 years old, and he had the mentality of a 40-year-old, he was 40 years old and he had the mentality of a 10-year-old. So they gave him children's books and stuff to read. He explains, just being really interesting, because whenever they time travel, they need to be a certain age for whatever mission it is. Interesting details. I mean, I could break down all the stuff he talks about, but I don't hear many people talking about the age progression. And then one of the things that I was able to verify, I looked up all the locations he talks about, and they all check out. In particular, he said on one mission they went to 2045, and as children in some office building. And the way they got back from 2045 was they had to learn how to run through a wall, just like you see in Harry Potter, how they have to run through the wall to get into that realm. That's exactly what happened. And he said they knew they were back in the 70s on their original timeline if they popped back into the Lobo Overlook site in Colorado Springs. And I'm like, okay, and he said it was that specific site is how they would communicate between dimensions. And I was like, okay, let's look into this. So I looked up the Lobo Overlook site, checks out. It's there. Read the history. It literally started in 1890 something, and it was originally a Tesla tower that was a wireless communication tower. And one of the things even Wikipedia says, notably, there are no visible wires in this photo. So it was a Tesla tower. And to me, it probably is just a more elaborate version of that today in disguise. You don't know what, nobody knows that Tesla was originally tied to that unless they're looking it up. So in my opinion, there's no coincidence. You know, he remembers going back to that location, specifically says that that's how they communicate between dimensions. And how he knew that was because during one mission, he came back to the wrong timeline. He went to his house, but there was a different family living there. And he had to explain to the people in the house, like, what was going on. And they actually let him in. He was a little boy. And they called somebody, some sort of authority, who got a hold of somebody in the Department of Defense, who was able to communicate with his father in his original timeline via the Lobo Overlook site in Colorado Springs.
Gotcha.
So they were actually able to locate his father.
So it's a junction point where they can make phone calls through time, basically.
Yeah, and
the technology exists. Yep.
Yeah. So, and they were able to bring him back home to his original timeline. So there's a number of fascinating things that he talks about Project Pegasus. You know, I've had a number of synchronicities surrounding Pegasus stuff, but as far as memories of being directly involved in that, maybe some of those memories were from that program. I just don't remember, but I definitely have time travel memories. I had one recently come back like a week ago. It was very interesting. I wrote it down immediately, but it's real. It's happening. And this modern disclosure that we're witnessing now is kind of laughable in the sense that they have people arguing over all the wrong stuff, and it's all out there. Disclosure happened. It's on the internet. You just have to know where to look.
Right. You know, when I load this video that I'm working on for you guys, the information I'm getting, a lot of the stuff I'm referencing is a lot of the stuff William Tompkins talks about. And for me, when I listen to William Tompkins, you know, the guy just has no reason to lie. He's 93 years old. I can tell when people are lying or kind of like, you know what I mean? Let's just say mischievous or not speaking or don't know. But William Tompkins, of all people, when that guy spoke, I was like, okay, so that makes sense of what they were doing. Because I was kind of born and raised in that environment, not knowing what was going on around me. I remember there's been many times in my life where these references of my past are starting to kind of jump back. It's almost like the butterfly effect, where I'm starting to walk through my past, my present, and my future simultaneously. And some of you guys may be experiencing that. And with these parallel realities collapsing, as we're kind of getting back on that golden timeline, which is the one towards abundance and whatnot, I would just like to say that it's been quite a journey being here. You know, I don't think any of us got a straight answer when we decided to incarnate. I got to be honest with you there. And a little,
I feel like I was tricked into it.
You know, I feel like I was like, we got this, bro. This is giving me an easy run. I'm down here. I've been wiped 1,000 times. I'm like, easy for who? Right. You know, and the clone thing too. To animate a clone, you need 1/8 of a real soul. Yeah, so some of you guys don't know that, but yeah, it's 1/8 of a real soul. During the Orion Gate Wars, I have flashes of the Anunnaki fighting. I don't know if I was a part of that group or if I was against them, but I just remember it takes 2 souls to operate an Orion battle tank. So in the future, far into the future, I suppose, I'm not really sure how far we jump back in time, Tyler. That's going to be another thing that a lot of us, and that's why I'm referencing Project Pegasus, because I'm trying to make it real for everyone out there. It's not just about who you are or where you are. It's when you're from. When are you?
Right.
When, you know what I mean? When is something you guys really need to process. They want to stick a lot of us in this, oh, we're from the past. We're from the past. We're from the past. And I was like, you know, that's cute. I totally get that. But what if for like 80% of the starseeds are actually from the future and we jump back in time? Another thing, too, that some of these different timeline beings don't want to tell you that try to monitor this game is in the future, the dark got their ass kicked. We totally swamped. We just whooped them. Okay. Right. So how do you stop an unimaginable powerful force? And if the Earth, once it does completely flip into this Guardian or Galactic Alliance position in the Sol system, the issue is that we are warrior class beings. No matter how much they try to soften us, no matter how much propaganda they try to pump into our heads, our genome is not weak. Our genome is very, very diligent, strong, just awesome. The human, this us down here, I just got to tell you guys how awesome you are. Okay,
Well,
you know, go
we're
ahead.
referred to as genetic royalty. I mean,
Yeah, genetic, exactly.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is, how do you win a war in the future? Right. Well, what you got to do is you got to jump back in time and you got to make changes so that this great honorary planet with all citizens involved, everybody, you have to start changing and modifying them in the past to win in the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of us came back here and jumped back in time to make sure, because there have been alterations in our timeline.
Always.
Who the hell gave
there
the
always
yeah.
are.
Yeah. So who
It's
gave these little
ongoing.
weirdos like CERN the technology to bend and create parallel realities?
Right.
Okay. And then I don't know if you saw the stuff, some of the remnants of the Nazi base on the moon. There's rules to time. You're allowed to jump back like 20,000 years into the past, but you can't jump back like 100 years or 200 years and make direct adjustments. So a lot of these buildings they're finding are very, very old, but they were made by, people in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but they had to jump past the time barrier window or time buffer wall. There's rules in time. I don't know how to explain it to you, but there's rules to this game. You can't just come and directly change a timeline, because there are beings that monitor those timelines. It's not a random thing. It's kind of like they tried to make a TV show about it. What was it with the Loki? The TVA.
Right.
You know what I mean? There are groups and beings that are very advanced that monitor time.
Well, what's interesting about that is that's 100% true. And as hard as that is for a lot of people to grasp, because I see people in the comments under our videos on X that like laugh at the thought of time travel, that it's just ridiculous. Maybe they're agents, maybe they're trolls, maybe they're just really not aware yet, but it's still, we're not 100% there yet. People are just finally starting to grasp the concept of the reality of time travel. We interviewed Dan Cooper, he's a military whistleblower, and he taught us about something called Temporal Management Command. He said they operate out of Fort Bragg in North Carolina, underground. And he said what they do is they correct timeline deviations that are created by, let's just say, private corporations, other entities in the private sector that are manipulating our timeline. And there's groups out there negatively trying to redirect something and cause these alterations and these deviations. And then there's a group which he says is a Navy group that are tasked with going back and correcting that. But I asked him, like, how does that look? He said they can't go back and just change it all at once, because that creates a paradox. So he said they have to go down the timeline and subtly nudge it at certain junctions until it's back on course, and it can take years. But this is happening all over the place, because the advent of time travel, when they were experimenting with these technologies, they were literally tearing holes in space-time and creating all these, break off timelines and these
branches. They create artificial branches.
Yeah. And they didn't understand the implications of what they were doing. And it literally creates the Mandela effects. And that's how we're slipping back and forth. And
Bernstein bears and all this shit. And there's even new Mandela effects that are popping off, even with CERN getting turned off.
Right.
I'm not sure if that was a stabilizing mechanism. This is some of the stuff between like Solar Warden and the real technology we have compared to like what they let the public play with. First of all, there's like at least 8 to 12 Hadron colliders on Earth. It's not just CERN. CERN's the only public one. There's a huge one in South Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to get is with stabilizing all of these. Okay. Now imagine the Hadron Collider. Now spread out the planet and then put a Hadron Collider on every single ley line that crosses with 4 ley lines, which cross like this, that intersect. They put a Hadron Collider here. They put a Hadron Collider here. They put a Hadron Collider here. They put a Hadron Collider here, and they all sync them. That's really, in my mind, what's going on. So you know, there's like some questions for a physicist. I wish Nassim Harriman was on here. I go, to create an artificial bridge to a parallel reality, how many hadron colliders would you need operational, working at a very specific frequency and pulse ratio to actually shift the entire dimension or plane of a planet or of a space? You know what I mean? How much voltage, how much power, how much vibration would you need? Because I'm sure there's a math equation.
Yeah, I maybe that answer would still be theoretical too, because I think they're still trying to do that, but maybe they're not entirely successful. I know,
Well, yeah.
I know just from reading and doing my own research, it at least has to be triangulated. Means they need at least 3 of them to open a portal. Like you have to have 3 devices, locations, and this can look any number of ways depending on what technology you're using. So it has to be triangulated, which would make sense. But then they're like, okay, what happens if we add more? How do we expand this? But I don't think, a lot of these, if you want to get into like the more of a philosophical viewpoint of this, a lot of these timelines are created through ill-intentioned agendas, right? And whenever that happens, I think it's an inorganic timeline in the sense that because it was created through deception, it'll naturally fizzle out itself. Like it's unsustainable essentially.
Right.
And that timeline is inevitably going to collapse because of it wasn't created with a pure intention. I believe that's the case. And I think that's what we're seeing. So they might have all these timelines and these agendas, and they're just like collapsing and dissolving one after the other because they were never created. Anything birthed in secrecy is not of the light. So it's the light's gonna consume and dissolve those timelines, and it's gonna reintegrate, whatever. And this could be why we have a Mandela effect that suddenly it was always like this, then it's like this, now it's back like this, and because maybe that artificial timeline dissolved. I mean, I don't know. This is just kind of stuff I think about. And
and I get it. And here's the thing too, when I say things, there's a reason. So it's hadron, not hydron. Well, how many heads of the Hydra are there?
Yeah.
Hadron Collider, or is it Hydron? How many heads of the Hydra? What was Captain Marvel fighting in Captain America in Part 2? Hail Hydra. Sounds familiar with the type of jackasses we're dealing with. So I get it, Hadron Collider. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is there's something going on here with someone's trying to modulate something with technology that does not serve the all. I'm just curious about which timeline they're trying to shift us from. I know that Rocket Man, he's been on Gaia many times. He was known as Rocket Man in the 50s, little genius 16-year-old boy. Now he's much older. I want to say his name's Bill. I can't remember. But anyways, he was talking about in like summer of 2012 that a huge asteroid came by, or 2011 going 8 months after that, there would have been the end of right on time with the 2012 thing. There was a huge asteroid that passed by us and the moon, and we weren't told about it. I said it in some of my past videos, but there's different probable timelines that are adjusting here. And back to the technology thing. I find it very interesting based upon the technology that is available. And how it was explained to me is this. There's certain technology allowed on the surface of Earth. And then as soon as you go to the moon, that is actually the differential where you can actually start playing with space weapons and all the other stuff. Like there's like a buffer wall, like you're not allowed to have certain weapons or technology on the surface, which is changing, obviously. But there's different levels to the technology, which is allocated or allowed in a space. So I find it very interesting with all this technology and how far ahead the military industrial complex is, some of these dark corporations, that as far as us being monitors down here and placeholders, it's very interesting to me to feel that someone who's participating in our game has access to all this stuff created by us, mind you, created by us. These beings can't create anything. They can only copy us and utilize us to do it.
Right.
So I don't understand how that works with universal law, and where any being who's participating in a game in that nature would ever think that that sort of judgment or course correction would not come into this planet and adjust it. It doesn't logically make sense for these beings pretending to be so highly intelligent for me to sit here and you to sit here, Tyler, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, or vice versa. I'm not the sharpest tool on the planet, but I can tell you this: I can see an imbalance. I can see that we have a rogue breakaway society of humans that think about the people on Earth as like cavemen that have broken away 60, 80 years ago. And how is that a direct correlation with our genome and what we should have here on planet Earth? So I think this is more of a court case situation that's going on, dude. These guys are going to get the hammer slammed down. And this gray area, a lot of these different species have been utilizing to operate in here based upon our free will. I really do feel that those are going to fall upon a lot of deaf ears in the councils upstairs. Right. I really just think they're going to reset this, and it's hard for us to comprehend that sort of power, technology, or knowingness of universal beings. But them resetting a game back 100 years, 80 years, 50 years is nothing.
Right.
I just think, go ahead.
Yeah, no, 100%. They have something called the ability to uncreate someone. They never do this because it changes everything. I've learned this from a book called Shining the Light. It's a fantastic channel of information. Take it with a grain of salt, but certain stuff just resonates and rings true. And you can't write off everything as just a theory. I think in some capacity, this stuff is actually happening. And they're channeling this being. I actually put the whole segment of it in my book because I found it so fascinating. And he's explaining that we almost achieved world peace in the 80s here in the United States in particular. And the individual who was the candidate who would become the president at that time, they saw down his timeline and saw what would happen if he became president. So what they did was uncreate him, which means that they uncreate him and everything that he ever touched, which it resets the entire timeline in ways you can't fathom, because every little intricate thing that he put his hand on was now altered because he's not in existence anymore.
Yep.
Like if there was an article written about him in a newspaper, there's like that slot in the newspaper, there's going to be a different article there. It's not like the whole newspaper changes, but everything is altered. So the entire memory of this individual is also gone. And they said that when they uncreate somebody, it's an alien technology, it reverts them back to source, their original, like all the way back to the beginning. And then they have to like basically restart in whatever capacity it looks like. But they explain that we were there, it happened here, and none of us remember. There was a major reset in the 80s, somewhere around the late 80s, early 90s.
Yep.
And which changed the timeline and erased our memory. And I think this might be why a lot of people have this fond connection to the 80s. Like almost like if you go back to the 80s, the music feels good.
Right.
There's something about it that seems more pure. It's because during that era, we were actually reaching a point in history.
We were supposed to have disclosure, dude, in the 80s. With their, hey, these are real. It was supposed to be a positive timeline.
Yeah.
And even with a Total Recall that came out with Schwarzenegger, right? That was another timeline. I don't know, it was 1996. There was another timeline where they were trying to come out and be like, hey, this is real, this and that. And if you guys saw the remake of Total Recall, it has nothing to do with Mars.
They took Mars out of it.
Bullshit slaves going through the planet in a big elevator. I mean, it is just hot garbage, you know? So, no, it's very interesting. You know, I agree with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to read this one part of this. So, this is just part of that conversation. It said, so you're telling me we had peace then? This planet was totally... Yes, even down to the level of the ordinary citizen, people were happy. On this planet 2 or 3 years ago, and this was in the 90s, this was this conversation. On this planet 2 or 3 years ago, yes, on this planet, it's hard to believe, and I can't convince you. I can only say that's the way I see it, that you are living in a variation of reality that you were not intended to live in. And they said, wait a minute, I'm struggling to integrate the idea of this uncreated president. It's like this. There are many ripples going in your timeline now because not only do you have to have a secret government interfering with your future, past, and so on, you also have all of your individual souls interacting with your future selves, to say nothing of the influence of the creator, angelics, and so on. So you've essentially got a whole lot of shaking going on. This means that anything I say going out in print or to an individual can create more of a shake. Have you ever cooked something, a recipe in which you had to add certain ingredients at certain times to make it right? It's like that. if you add the ingredients at the wrong time, the cake falls. So timing is everything. And they said, but there is a reality that existed even as you were speaking to us in 1991, in which there was peace. There was no Lyndon Johnson reelected. There was no whatever the next war was. Yes. Now it's a dotted line, but then it was intended to be your destiny. So we have no idea the amount of resets that have taken place. We hear about the Tartaria one that happened allegedly in the late 1800s, and you have the one in the 80s. And that's just the tail end of that conversation. But it's something I don't think most people consider. You know, you try to make sense of surface level politics. People don't understand what's at stake here. What's at stake is the planet, for one.
Yep.
And the technologies involved, the extraterrestrial races involved. And, you know, this isn't just extraterrestrial, it's interdimensional. I'm sure there's like interdimensional politics that we don't even know about, and politicians that, you know, that interact between worlds. I mean, who knows what it actually looks like?
Right. Well, our goal, ladies and gentlemen, is to make sure that these beings on this planet that are pretending to be your leaders, to hold them accountable and let the true spirit energy signatures of those that want peace, prosperity, and sovereignty on this planet to reign. And I personally think that a lot of these beings doing this stuff are going to be erased, similar to, I feel there's going to be a lot of erasing. I also feel that a lot of these beings hide behind synthetics, grays, and other species to do their dirty work because they know the karmic ramifications of their actions. I also think a lot of the beings down here are running echo programs through parallel realities. So all of that is known and going to be adjusted. I feel we all deserve our 25 years back. I feel like we all deserve the release of these med beds. I feel we all deserve our 25 plus years back, all of us. Parents, grandparents, I want my time back. You stole my time, and what you really stole is my experience. We signed up to have a specific experience on this planet, and it was hijacked. So that's what I'm trying to say, and we're going to hold every single being accountable to the letter. So that's where we come from. That's what we're doing here. I mean, I just want to be clear, like, it's not going to be a big question mark on what we're going to do specifically. But I think that all of us really do want the best for everyone. And we want this world to chill out. Let's have this abundance. Let's have some of these RVs. Let's have some of this Nasara Jasara. Let's have some of this financial abundance and balance. Because right now on Earth, it is very obvious that we need change. Right. And no matter where it comes from, we really need change. And I think I'm rooting for all of us. Just when I'm in council meetings, the first thing I say is, I want 25 years back for all my friends and family that have been lied to and hoodwinked in this bullshit. Since the incursion, so let's try this out. If there was a timeline incursion, this is how you ask your higher self something. So if there's a timeline incursion, we have a missing president, let's just say. We have something that altered our timeline for every single being on this planet, and we are living in a shadow of the timeline we should have existed in, right? What would you do to fix that? You're asking very highly ultra-terrestrial beings that are staring at this planet like we're a bunch of munchkins having a growing pains. And I would just say, we need our time back, Father. We need our time back, what was taken from us. No, I don't want to do it in a post-solar flash and everyone's in 5D. There's a lot of beings down here, I feel, that deserve to be in their hearts on a golden timeline and had that robbed from them with all the pain and negative experiences that took place, and maybe have chosen a more negative polarity or the way they see the world based upon that. They gave up hope. Do you see what I'm saying, Tyler? Yeah. All that shit led to you going, yeah, whatever. Instead of you know, I want our hope back as a people.
I think it's coming back. I think it's a matter of which lens you view reality through.
Yeah.
The glass half full or empty, you know, that's very true. And that's, I mean, everything that we look at in the world stage can be viewed through both lenses, and you can find proof to support your theory, both on both sides of the card there. So it's really interesting. It just depends on which version of reality you want to see and create. Mm-hmm. So that's important to know. But also getting back into like going back in time and altering something if you could. Andrew Bashago said that, I believe that he was even referencing 9/11. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I know for a fact he said that when they came back with the intel of, let's just say 9/11, what they realized they had learned the hard way is their intel was no good if they acted on it, because if you act on it, it changes the whole outcome, the trajectory anyway, and it could just happen a different way. The same event could happen a different way, so you're planning for the whole wrong thing. So he said all you could do is come back with the knowledge and adjust accordingly, and you can do, there's like subtle nudges that you could potentially do,
Right.
but you can plan for it, but you can't change it. And you can plan on how to respond to it and have things in place, which is interesting. And then the Sands of Time material by Sean David Morton, 7 books. There's more coming out. The Origins of Time Travel and the Shadow Government, mind-blowing material. I couldn't recommend it enough, but they talk about all these early time travel experiments, and they said you couldn't go back in time and eliminate Hitler because the energy of Hitler, he would just be replaced by somebody else that would do the same or similar thing. That the only way to actually fundamentally alter a timeline was A, to uncreate somebody with that technology, or B, you have to send 1 million people back in time that all had the understanding of what Hitler did, so you can change the collective consciousness surrounding that person or event and the belief on the outcome. So it would take an actual like a whole planetary shift in consciousness to change an outcome. So they understood that they can't actually do it. If they try to stop one individual or one event, the same person will pop up in another avatar, or it'll happen another way. And there's a number of variations, but nevertheless, something similar still happens. So they can't change it entirely, unless all of us went back in time with the memory of what happened in the future, and then we could shift it collectively, but that's unrealistic. So there's things to consider about, like,
as you're saying this, all I have is like time references shooting through my head. I'm like Jekyll Island.
Yeah.
Saving the guys, don't get on the Titanic. I would have been like, or just, going downstairs and catching the guy lighting the dynamite at 3 a.m. To me, it's like, okay, I get the normal inhabitants of this planet dealing with jackasses. What I don't like is the interaction with other ET species pretending that they can get away with this because they have our consent when they never had our consent. They had a handful of jackasses' consent that affected the millions and billions of people on this planet. And those beings that made those decisions never had the divine right to speak on our behalf. But number 2, I also find it very interesting that there was a galactic war over this place. There was a time when there was Draco reptilian controls. I asked specifically, when was that freed up? When did we get control of the airspace? When would our technology get there? And this is more relevantly recent things that we've come up in our technology to a level that we can defend ourselves. You have to realize, if you can't defend yourself, you're going to do whatever these beings tell you to do, right? So there's something about that that's very relevant. That people ask, why did this happen and how can this happen? I'm like, well, what if we said a superior technologically advanced species came in here and kicked everyone's ass? Is that clear for you? And I was like, oh. They're like, yeah, you think we wanted to, how many draconian planets that are ruled by the Sakaar want to be enslaved? None. So what are we really dealing with here? So I think that's a talk and a tale for another time here on Story Time.
Right. Well, how we're stronger than them. We have more light than them because they have to cheap shot us in the middle of the night when we're vulnerable.
100%.
They can't attack us in broad daylight. A reptilian can't punch you in the face. They can't do it. They got to cheap shot you in the middle of the night when you're at your weakest point, when you're most vulnerable. And that's because they don't actually have any power. They don't actually have any strength. It's they take ours, and like you said, they use us to create the reality for them. Yep. And potentially they've even been terraforming this planet. You can get into the climate stuff, and there's a number of interesting theories surrounding that. But it's apparent they've been here for quite some time, pulling some strings, but that's changing.
And I always get in trouble when I say this stuff. Listen, not all reptilians are bad. What I'm trying to say is there's
It's
a rogue
true.
faction that goes around not just this planet, but this whole area that it has, and they have their own bad, the certain negative tall whites, there's certain negative species, grays, whatever you want to call them. There's about 4 or 5 of them that kind of roll around together and they cause a lot of havoc, not just on this planet. So I also want you guys to know that this is not just going on Earth, because we take it so personal. Like, why is this happening to us? Father, make it rain, man, the Mongos. And you realize, you're guys, it's you and about 100 other planets to your right. It's not just here. So
Right.
once you realize and can zoom out and say, oh shit, this whole thing, yeah, we're all going toe to toe with these dudes. We're all part of the alliance, taking the reins back of this area throughout all time and space. It will take some of that stress off of you guys. Okay.
Right.
It's not just us having an issue on this planet. This is going on all over the place. This is just a very important planet that needs to shift and have its freedom and sovereignty back. That's
Right.
all.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was I just going to say? Now I forgot. Oh, yeah. I mean, going back to like not all reptilians are negative. That's true with any species, any race. I mean, it's
Right.
there's duality everywhere. And I mean, you have to paint a picture for yourself. Imagine if some, to use your term, jackass deep state faction went to another planet and started a war. That planet, let's say their only awareness of a human from Earth would be this deep state faction. So now they're going to think all humans are
Or like
evil.
this jackass. Yep.
Right. They're going to think all humans are evil. And then if you or I tried to go and explain to them otherwise, they've already in their mind painted us as negative. So they're going to demonize us, and we're going to get thrown into that same category. And understandably so, because they had been done dirty, by our brothers and sisters. So, I mean, that's how you have to look at this. Every dog is not evil, but there's a lot of shitty dogs out there that are biting people, and you can't, or, they're not behaving. But if you ask somebody, are dogs evil? They're going to say no, but they sure know some dogs that they're afraid of,
I guess what I would have to say is, I guess they weren't raised properly
Right.
and loved properly by their parents. I guess they weren't taught right and wrong.
That's 100% where it stems from. And doesn't matter if we're talking about dogs or humans. Yeah.
Or alien species that stole technology and are rolling around the galaxy in interstellar spaceships, but can't repair them with alligator faces.
Yeah. We interviewed Ken Rolla, who had some experiences with some reptilians, and they explained to him that, what are you laughing at?
I just said with alligator faces.
Oh.
You know what I mean? They can't repair their own ships. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? All right, moving on. No, I was like, I'm having my own inner dialogue. There's some things I can say and some things I can't. You're fantastic. Continue.
Ken Rolla, he had a experience with reptilians who he physically saw them, and it's an amazing story. He's an inventor, and he developed a relationship with them, and they were a benevolent group. But he explained how the negative ones operate. He said they're born in captivity underground in these facilities, and he said they're hatched out of eggs. Like, we don't really think of that when we're thinking about reptilians, but he goes, what they do is they only feed their young enough. If there's 5 eggs, there's enough food for 3 of them, and they make them fight for that food right out of the gate. They're literally born, it's in their DNA to compete and survival of the fittest, and to anything that's lower than them to eliminate, so they can stay at the top. That's how they're programmed. That's their mentality. They know no other way of life.
Right.
But when he explained it like that, I was like, that's very interesting. Like, this is how they're treating their own young. They don't even give them a fair chance to begin with, because they're turning them into battle-hardened warriors to compete against the human race. And I mean, I don't know if it still looks like that, but it's an interesting way to look at it.
I would just say maybe have less eggs.
Yeah, scramble them.
I don't know. Maybe,
or have scrambled eggs.
Maybe it's just grandpa and me saying, hey, maybe don't print 300. Maybe just do 50 and give him twice the portion. I don't know. There's a lot of rhymes and reasons there are beings out there because you know what a true dragon or a draconian, not the Sakari guys, but the true dudes. The true inner species or the true essence of some of these species, you'd be very surprised to think that you think a draconian looks like that and that's the head of their species, and you find out no, that's an avatar they created to do a very specific job. That's not actually what they look like.
Right.
Because I've bumped into some different guys on this planet in the astral. And I said, do you even know like your home world? I start flashing images of it. And I'm like, do you even know like what your royal family actually looks like? They have no idea. Like me? I'm like, no, dude. So there's an amnesia going on here, not just for us in the physical, ladies and gents. I just want to remind you guys of this. For everyone in this container that we're bumping shoulders with, there's a lot of unknown things, even for those beings that were born here. I know for a fact that draconian that are born on this planet, majority of them can't return home to Beetlejuice or Beetle guys. Right. And the beings on Beetle guys, think of the dragons or the draconian here, not dragons, but the draconian here is like straight damaged. They won't even let you land. So you got to be careful kind of grouping all of these beings in one deal, because I think honor, loyalty, and strength is a universal truth beyond all ancient species, respect, and intelligence. And there's something that needs to be kind of brought back here. I feel that even some of these species that were locked in this reincarnation wheel, because there's been many galactic wars, right? Many souls fell from different sides of these conflicts over eons of time. Many of these souls were swept up in the reincarnation wheel. Why do you think 23andMe is looking so diligently for specific DNA traits?
Right.
Because, there's a reason why they're hunting. Is because you don't know who you really are. They're trying to find out themselves who's down here. They don't know. So there's just something about it where I just wish some of the elder species would pay a little more attention to this game and actually have a little more hands-on. And that goes through all dimensions, all time and space. And I think that this kindergarten teenage angst shit needs to end. Because if you actually knew who you really were and you actually saw a flash of your real family that could have been 100,000 years ago, and be like, hey, dude, 60,000 years ago, there's a big war. Your ship went down. You went unconscious. You got sucked up into Earth's reincarnation wheel. You've had 5,000 lives. You don't remember who you are or where you come from. And then here's the craziest shit. What if you find out you were fighting on the wrong side this whole time? You were actually fighting for those that captured the planet or captured you. You know what I mean? There's no bigger kick in the stomach or hit in the stomach to find out that you've been lied to and the things you're serving are actually the ones that are keeping you in the cage.
I mean, and that's at the end of the day, that's not our fault because we're born into this program.
No, I'm talking about everybody. I'm like, this is we're like human shit. I'm talking about shit that's like, there's some beings down here that are walking around that have been fighting on the wrong side. They've been fighting on the control side this whole time, not knowing it's the control side that keeps them locked in the cage the whole time.
It's all a matter of perspective. And then when you're born into that, the monarch mind control is programming through your DNA. So they're born with these beliefs and this knowing, but they don't know another way. So it's almost like they don't even have a chance. It's like I talked to somebody, a friend of mine talked to this millionaire, billionaire guy or something, and he mentioned garage sale to him, something about garage sale. And the guy was perplexed. He's like, what do you mean garage sale? He's like, like a yard sale. And he's like, what do you mean? And that guy literally had never heard of or didn't know what a garage sale was. Like he was born into this world where it's how far removed from the lower middle class he was. And so he only lives in this bubble, this reality where he's participating in this corporate evil and has no idea what he's doing is evil.
Right.
That's how far removed these people are. So that's kind of what you're talking about. You don't know. And so through their eyes, based on their belief system, they're doing something benevolent because it serves them, but that's all they understand.
Right.
It's just really interesting. You got to kind of put yourself in other people's shoes to understand this, really.
You know, I want everyone to get a fair handshake at this thing. And my thing is that, and why it's so important, Tyler, why podcasts like this exist, actually, you know, we don't really exist in the fringe. We actually exist in the heart.
Right.
It's something that it's just our awareness and our data processing is, let's just say, enhanced compared to the knowledge and stuff that we pay attention to and the information that we absorb. But my thing is that for everyone down here, the last thing I want, if you choose to be a night side dude and you're like, hey, I'm cool with being the bad guy, for example. Okay, cool. You've made that choice. You go be the bad guy. What I'm concerned about is people that actually want to be the good guy or the people that don't know what to do, who are kind of pulled into a certain group, not knowing the consequences of their actions.
Right.
And I don't want beings that have been locked up here for quite some time, who are now the head of some of these families with these draconian contracts, stealing my brothers and sisters and their family members into a world that's even more difficult to get out from.
Yeah.
Our job is to pull them out of Dark City. And that's all I'd like to say. And as many as we can save and as many people as we can pull out of this place, the better. That's how I feel.
Right. Somebody said, user Jones 6829 said, get me out of the cage. You know, it reminds me of something Max Spears said. He said, you can't escape karma by escaping Earth. Like, it doesn't end.
No, it follows you. Yeah.
Yeah, it follows you.
Ask the Palladians.
Right. Yeah. So we want a way out, but if we're not actually doing the work that we came here to do and potentially serving karmic debt or learning lessons or evolving, leveling up, whatever it looks like, you're just going to have to do it somewhere else, another version of you. Like it doesn't end. Like, I don't know. You understand what I'm trying to say. It doesn't stop here.
Yeah. And and the whole thing with I think their Palladians and their big war and their system ended about 50,000 years ago, or 30,000 years ago. I know the huge war with Arcturus and all the Arcturians, why their technology is so advanced. I don't know how many hundreds, 80,000 years ago. When did Arcturus stop fighting? 100? About 100,000 years ago. So what are we really saying?
Is Arcturus Rob behind you right there?
No, I was looking up here because they go like this. If you guys,
I know, I'm fucking with you.
They go like, I'm like, is it 80? They go 1. They draw it out for me. That's how
right.
my eyes are on. So, yeah. So, but what I'm getting to is full circle here is that very advanced benevolent species at one point in time were a warring species, and we are the same way. It's not that they are better than us; it's to say they've already gone through that growth pattern. Earth, we are on our growth pattern to also leave this type of warring mentality. And what I really want is to join my brothers and sisters in the Galactic Alliance and the Earth Alliance upstairs. Like, this human shit on the surface is cute. Okay. But there's a version of me that's already in a parallel reality existing in that timeline that you talked about, Tyler, that we were robbed from.
Right.
You know, our timeline was stolen back in 83, 84, 86. Right. So I just feel that let's get our true self and our true timeline back. And brothers and sisters, that's all I'd like to say. Tyler, where can they find you, my brother?
JourneyToTruth.online has everything we do. And in fact, I just revamped the website today, so go check it out. And if you're interested in reading my book, I have shared a lot of my memories in here, Bleed Through Tales from Another Timeline on Amazon. You can also find it on the website. And that's it for now. I'm getting ready to head to Mount Shasta to speak at a conference that Aaron and I were both invited to. And so be doing that. And yeah, just go to the website, check us out, and follow us on all the social medias. And on YouTube, Journey to Truth podcast on YouTube. They took our channel back or away. We got it back. So we're trying to regrow over there.
I'm excited. When you guys got your channel back, I was like, yes, finally. Cause that you guys worked so hard on building that channel. So it's nice to have it back.
It doesn't matter where you try to respawn. YouTube is YouTube, and that's where the world goes, and
yeah,
if you can somehow gain some traction and stay afloat over there, it goes a long way. And, so, we have Rumble, and we're grateful for Rumble, and we put everything over there as well. But it's not, you think everybody knows about it. I was talking to my sister. She's like, what are you going to do? I was like, oh, we're on Rumble. She's like, what's that? Like, the average person doesn't know what Rumble is. Everybody knows what YouTube is. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, you guys can follow me at teamlightstore.com or teamlight.com. We're making new music. I'm going to load some new playlists and short films for you guys shortly. And with that, my brother, it's been an absolute pleasure. Till next time.
Later, guys.
Peace.
System buster. System buster.
System buster.
System buster.
Sir, we may have a problem. He's awake.
Only one rule in the Earth Club. If it's your first time, you gotta fight. Only one rule in the Earth Club. If it's your first time, you gotta fight. Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate. Start CDNA. Start
Orders received, Commander. Earth will not fall.
Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate, activate. Start CDNA. Activate, activate, activate. Activate the code inside. Activate, let the stars see right. Activate, 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 activate.